Robbins, my partner, my wife. She's probably busy homeschooling our 4 children who are left at home. As many of you know, we have 9 children, and only 4 are left, so it's like no one's there anymore. Okay, let's begin. So Familius 2020 Summit, grateful for your time. We want to learn from 2020 to create a much stronger company. Again, we talked about that. So this has been an interesting year for all of us. What have we accomplished though, since I walked out my kitchen door in 2012 while leading another publishing company for 16 years and deciding that I wanted to create a company that would take advantage of the great disruption from the Great Recession, do something that I felt mattered, and stay in the publishing industry. And it's now been 8 years. And so what have we accomplished in 8 years? And we are so grateful that you took a chance on us. So we've created a publishing program that has delivered over 400 titles in print, audiobooks, ebooks, video books, foreign translations, podcasts, social media channels, and of course the 9 Habits of Happy Families to a global audience. We literally are seeing our books across the world. We have been a top 3 fastest growing independent publisher 2 years in a row. And we've been a top 5 3 years in a row. We'll see what happens in 2020, as it's one of the most unique years I've experienced in my entire career. Made for Me, Familius' first nationwide bestseller and 100,000 copy seller. When I was at Gibbs Smith for almost 17 years, at the time I started, we didn't have a single 100,000 copy seller. We set a goal that we would have 5. By the time we left, we had 23. So we have similar goals here. So now we have our first 100,000 copy seller. We expect that we're going to have a lot more. And there's a number of titles that are very close over the next 1 to 2 years that we'll see hit that number. So congratulations to Gregorio and to Zach for authoring and illustrating Familius' first 100,000 copy seller and Publishers Weekly national bestseller. We've partnered, as you know, with Workman. We've communicated this to you. For the first 7 years, we distributed ourselves, which worked fine. But as we continued to grow, we knew that we needed to make a step to try to have a better logistics infrastructure. Logistics is, the process of getting your books out into the marketplace through shipping to different stores. And while I have American West Books, which is a wholesale distribution company, we felt that we needed to partner with somebody. So we partnered with Workman to do our distribution starting November 2019. And they, in my opinion, are the most respected independent book publisher in the United States. So far has been a wonderful partnership, and it's been very valuable to Familius as well as to you as authors and illustrators. We've engaged Protege and Future House as a calendar and fantasy sci-fi distribution clients to the Familius family, which has just added different level of books. And of course, we've engaged a group of authors, illustrators, designers, and agents who sincerely want to sell books and help families around the world be happy. So we are so grateful for what you do and the contribution that you make to Familius and to the world. So thanks. Okay, well, let's look at what's changed in the book industry in 2020, because it's been significant. The book industry as a whole almost shut down during the first months of the pandemic. Amazon listed books as non-essential and stopped ordering and shipping them. Trade and gift stores throughout the world closed for social distancing. Barnes & Noble furloughed, and then they later laid off their entire buying team. Mass merchandisers cordoned off sections of their stores, including book areas, deeming them non-essential. Costco and Sam's Club deprioritized and reduced their book strategy, including eliminating regional books, which was a main focus of our other company, American West Books. And Baker and Taylor, the second largest trade wholesaler, exited the trade book industry. Okay. I've never seen anything like this. In the Great Recession, there were a few companies that went bankrupt. The biggest one, of course, was Borders, which impacted the industry. But to see this type of activity is unprecedented. Currently, about 60% of the independent gift market is still closed. The gift market are those in the stores that sell more than just books. Barnes & Noble has not ordered any spring or fall 2020 titles as they are re-engineering their program. Most independent bookstores are either closed or doing curbside pickup, as you know. There's been some interesting articles about that in the Washington Post. Like you, all Familius employees are working remotely. I come into the office and often I'm the only person here. So we have a 2,500 square foot office building, which I get to run around and no one's here. It's really exciting. Sometimes sometimes Ashley comes in. Familius sales have primarily gone through 3 channels this year: Amazon, Target, and Whole Foods. Anywhere that Familius could put books where they were open or their people were shopping, we put books. So while we have sold at other locations, it's significantly concentrated to those 3 customers, which I'm sure you would agree is while that's nice, it's not favorable to any company to be so concentrated because of the changes in the industry. Familius is basically flat this year, which we think is a big win. We had a great first quarter. The second quarter was, of course, impacted tremendously by COVID-19. The third quarter, which we're in, has been basically flat. So we are basically flat for the year. We are very bullish about the end of the third and the fourth quarter. We think that we will have some really nice sales, and we should end the year up over 2019, which would give us, again, hopefully a 4th consecutive year of being one of the fastest growing independent publishers in the country, but we'll see. Okay. How has this pandemic impacted you, our authors and illustrators? And we know that we have almost 300 people that engage with us on our book. So we have a fraction of authors and illustrators on this Zoom call, and we'll be recording it, putting it on YouTube so that it can be shared with them. So a lot of them work internationally. Sean Thompson's in South Africa. Luckily, he was able to get on. But we have others that are in many different countries: Belarus, Russia, Brazil, Italy, Spain, London. We like working internationally. It's a lot of fun. Okay. Many of you know this. I've had personal email conversations with you about it. Publishing schedules. Familius moved some 2020 titles to future seasons. We had to, including titles that we had scheduled. We moved them to 2021 and even some to 2022. While Familius needs to publish seasonally, and our seasons are, we publish in spring, which are titles published March through August, and then fall, which are titles published September through February. So while Familius needs to publish seasonally, we needed to protract some of those schedules to ensure a more responsible laydown of so much of the industry did not open, and it has remained unopened. So it was not in Familius's interest or our authors or illustrators' interest to keep the same schedule. So we did shift some things. Higher returns. Familius returns, you remember, every book we put into the book marketplace, except for the non-returnable accounts, which does make up a percentage of our business. Every book we put in the marketplace is available for full credit as a return from the industry back to Familius. You see those in your royalty statements as negative return numbers. Familius returns traditionally around 20% are about 30%. They're actually around 28% right now. As Baker and Taylor, who remember was the second largest wholesaler in the industry, decided to exit the trade industry. And they resulted in significant returns from their domestic and international warehouses. Some of you have asked me about your March royalties, where you saw high returns. March royalties and return numbers are an example of this, as all inventory that was in Australia and New Zealand was returned. And Australia and New Zealand has been traditionally our third largest market. The US first, Canada second, Australia and New Zealand third. So additionally, stores have returned inventory to pay outstanding invoices. So as you see the market coming back, they're taking their inventory and they're returning it to reduce their payables, which is understandable. So if you see high returns on your royalty statement, this is an explanation of why you would see that. American West Books, this is personally very tragic and sad for me. American West Books, which is my wholesale company to Costco, Sam's Club, REI, Whole Foods, and Nugget, is in a wind down process because of this pandemic and the retailers' decisions to eliminate regional and reduce their book programs. Over the last 3 years, some of the most important accounts that we have began deprioritizing their book departments and eventually stopped, had inventory management problems, returned millions of dollars worth of books, and then with the pandemic stopped buying altogether, and then decided that they were no longer going to buy regional books, which was what our strategy was based on. So unfortunately, I'm closing American West Books, and I'm winding it down, and it will be closed by November 30th of this year. And that will impact us. How will that impact us? Particularly in regional, where those of you who have worked with us on regional content, those books that we used to put a lot of books into Costco and Sam's Club for regional, and they'd sell a lot of copies very, very quickly. We won't have that opportunity anymore. Second, Whole Foods, which has been a great account for us to put books in. Fortunately, we were able to shift that relationship over to one of our competitors, ReaderLink. And in my negotiation with them, we were able to make sure that 2 Familius titles would be included in every Whole Foods laydown. So we thought that was a really big win that we would have as a company, is to ensure that on an ongoing basis, the Whole Foods business, which we enjoyed so much, is going to go forward. So that is a negative, but yet there's a positive there as well. There's future market uncertainty. Because so much of the industry closed and remains closed, and because of changes in consumer behavior, shopping curbside and online, I'm sure you've been doing the same thing. For example, Walmart, we chose not to put any books into Walmart. And why? Because people are not going into Walmart. They order online and they get it curbside. So books are not discoverable there anymore. Because of this consumer behavior change, again, shopping curbside and online, book discoverability is challenged. And let me just use 2 words. One word is discoverability, and another word is conversion. And these are marketing words, I realize, but we talk about it a lot at Familius. Discoverability is when you're able to discover that a book exists. You're looking for something and you discover it. Conversion is when, after discoverability, after discovering the title, the consumer reader decides to buy that book. And there's 2 processes to make that happen, right? The first is to make sure that book is visible, whether it's visible online, whether it's visible in publicity, whether it's visible in just distribution at a store someone walks into, they discover it. And with so much of the industry closed, the opportunities for discoverability have gone down. And then we work very hard on conversion. The conversion, of course, is the title, it's the subtitle, it's the design of the book, it's the copy of the book, it's the metadata that communicates to the consumer that this book is going to solve their problem. A lot of energy and work goes into those 2 things. But the fundamental problem right now is discoverability. So because discoverability is challenged, it requires greater creativity to have consumers find your wonderful books. So what are we going to do about that? So Familius is going to pivot, and it's not going to ignore the trade industry. It's going to continue and maintain and strengthen its trade industry relationships. However, it wants to pivot and strengthen its direct-to-consumer strategy with the goal that within 3 years, that 50% of all sales are direct to consumer. So what's the reality? Familius recognizes its stewardship responsibility to have your books get into the hands of readers. And I use that word stewardship seriously. We, as a publisher, we are the venture capitalist. We're the ones who finance it. And we require a return on that investment. Every book is an entrepreneurial experience and activity. However, it's a unique industry in where we have a stewardship to take your intellectual property and license it and make sure that we do that responsibly and get into the hands of readers. We believe that with that responsibility, we can increase revenue and fulfill our mission to help families be happy. So to do this, Familius must take over more of the discoverability responsibility since it's been so greatly impacted by the changes in 2020. So to achieve this objective, Familius is going to reallocate much of its marketing and labor resources to create a direct-to-consumer strategy. Now we do people buy from us directly, but it's not as strong as it should be. This strategy will focus on what's called funnel marketing. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. You take a funnel and you're gathering people and you keep funneling it until you get to know exactly the consumer who will buy your book. So this funnel marketing techniques to essentially own the customer relationship rather than delegate it fully to the book trade industry. We feel like owning the customer relationship, having an engaged consumer base with us will be much more valuable to the company and to you as authors and illustrators. This strategy will be expensive and it will be long-term, and it includes things like redesigning a consumer-focused e-commerce website, creating online article content, which will be part of our funnel marketing campaign, consumer-focused social media engagement and advertising, affiliate marketing, working with other social media creators and working with them to help market our books in return for some slice of the pie. We launched a subscription program about 2.5 years ago, and we learned a lot from it. What we learned is how challenging the logistics of it can be. And so after about 8 months of experimenting with it, we ended it. We were going to relaunch it, taking what we learned and then focusing on a new program. The program will be a subscription box of 4 to 5 books for ages 0 to 3. Those will be board books. 4 to 8, those will be picture books. 0 to 8, which would be board books and picture books. And then gift boxes, one-time gift boxes for new mom, new dad, parents of teens, and grandparents. And those will be a selection of books that will both be, we call them prescriptive or reference books that black and white that you read, as well as books that are full color, like the picture books and board books. So these are just some examples of some of the things that we will be doing to try to attract and build a direct audience to strengthen the Familius brand and increase sales and discoverability of your books. So as an author, what I've learned is any change is viewed egocentrically, right? How does this impact me? So what should you expect as an author, agent, illustrator, designer? You should anticipate some normal transitional disruption as Familius reallocates resources. We're currently working with a consultant to review our technology and resources to fully understand what needs to be changed or rebuilt. We will be splitting our marketing into 2 areas. The first area will be traditional trade marketing. This is the marketing that you normally see, where you want reviews, right? I've learned 2 things in publishing. The first is that we can never sell enough books, and second, we can never have enough publicity. And that just goes with the industry. Traditional marketing is when we make sure that we have reviews in the trade journals like Kirkus, School Library Journal, Publishers Weekly. It's that we're marketing to the independent bookstores. We're marketing to Barnes & Noble. We're making sure that Amazon has the right metadata. We're making sure that Amazon knows when we have promotions. We're marketing to try to have your books be discovered both in physically as well as through media. That's traditional trade marketing. We're going to split that away from consumer-focused marketing. So consumer-focused marketing is what we're talking about in terms of that funnel marketing. How do we reach a group, say, for example, how do we reach a group of moms who have children ages 0 to 8 and make sure that they know about your book and have them engage with us directly? Kate the Great, who you work with, she will be shifting her focus to trade marketing only. Kate has been doing a lot of things. She does social media, she does trade reviews, she does the launch events. I mean, I could go on and on. She's able and skilled and talented to do so many different things. We're going to focus her efforts on trade marketing only. And she also need to know that she's going to go back to school, and that will impact us. And you need to know this. So as she goes back to school, her hours will be reduced. it will be best to email her questions now instead of calling her, and expect an email from Kate soon regarding her new work hours. We believe that having Kate focus on trade only and having her with reduced hours, as well as supporting her with some additional employees, will help maintain our traditional trade marketing focus. You might want to write this down. Future marketing question emails should go to publicity@familius.com to ensure multiple people see your email. We want, for example, orders@familius.com. Ashley and I view all those orders. I like to see them because it gives me an idea of what's happening out in the marketplace. We know that just more than one person has seen that order. And in this sense, we want to make sure that more than one person sees the publicity questions or needs. And again, as I said, we are in the process of hiring to focus on not only supporting Kate in her leadership in traditional trade marketing, but in our consumer marketing initiative, and intend on having that need solved within 30 days. We have been interviewing people, and we have not made a decision. It's been an interesting experience as we look at this audit with this consultant to identify exactly what skill sets we will need and what we will need to invest in order to test this strategy and work toward our goal of having 50% of our revenue generated direct to consumer. Okay, so again, how will this affect you as an author, illustrator, agent? So Familius will be reallocating a lot of its marketing dollars. Marketing dollars will be shifted to accomplish the B2C, business to consumer objective. Examples include digital catalogs and sales material rather than printed. For years, we've always printed a catalog. You receive that as a PDF. The industry has dramatically shifted in the last couple of years, and dramatically in the last 6 months, into just being used to seeing things digitally. So that shifting digital catalogs and shifting catalogs and sales material digitally will save Familius around $30,000, which annually, which we can now shift into other marketing opportunities. We will be reducing our travel and replacing that with video conferencing. All of our conferences so far this year have been, except for the one in New York in February at the height, right at the beginning when they knew that the pandemic was going to start, and I came home pretty much having COVID-19 and was sick in bed for 3 days. Other than that, we've cut all travel. Everything is being done through video conference now. And this includes our international book fairs. They canceled the Bologna Book Fair. They canceled the London Book Fair. And rather than just, throw up our hands and give up, fortunately with Dropcap and Ellison Olson, we were able to orchestrate that virtually through conferences, video conferences, and we have continued to sell international language rights for your books, which has been very successful. So we know that the world is moving toward a video conference rather than in-person travel, and we are successful at that and can now reallocate some of those monies over to additional marketing. We will reduce, not eliminate. It's important. We'll reduce, not eliminate, some traditional trade advertising. We've spent thousands of dollars in marketing to Publishers Weekly or School Library Journal, which is important. It's kind of a pay-to-play experience. They do separate advertising, marketing, and editorial, but I'm sure you all appreciate that the more you spend, the more they pay attention to you on the editorial side. So we will be reallocating some of that money that we've spent in the trade over to B2C, and the particular reason why is because we need to shift it. The trade is important, but this business to consumer relationship is equally important. We've been spending tens of thousands of dollars on Facebook advertising, and with some really interesting, failures and some interesting successes. We'll continue to do those things, advertising with social media to try to draw attention to specific books. But we're going to be trying to do that in a way now that, again, brings a group, a demographic to us and has them engage with us long term. The statistics are that on average, it costs about $1 to get a consumer to engage with you as a subscriber or an engaged member of your company. And it costs about $20 to convert them into a buyer. So you can see that that multiple is pretty significant. And so there'll be a significant investment made to try to bring people into Familius and to enlarge our family and to then convert them into buyers. Because that's so important, we've been publishing around 30 to 35 titles a season, which is a lot. We intend to reduce the number of titles published each season to ensure better marketing of those titles. What will that number be? I can't tell you today. I know that I think fall 2021 is right now, I think 28 titles. And we're definitely not going to increase that. But we think that as we tighten the list of books that we do, it will give more opportunity for us to strengthen their discoverability in the marketplace, because we just cannot rely on the industry to just let us have books be discovered. We can't delegate that responsibility 100% any longer. Author and illustrator engagement. Familius will seek author and illustrator partnership and engagement to contribute short content for our articles, a key part of our funnel marketing strategy. One of the unique competitive advantages that Familius has is you. Not just because you have great content and you've made great books, but because you're actually engaged in Familius as a family, and which is a really unique brand for the industry. In discussing this with the consultant, he thinks that there should be no problem with us having 500,000 to 1 million people engaged with us, because no one ever argues that they don't want to have a happy family. And if we can provide content to help them have a happy family, why wouldn't they engage with us? We just need to be better at doing that. So one of the ways that you can help us is that we will be looking to work with you over the next few months and into 2021 to create short article content that can be used to attract people to Familius's site, to engage them in helping their family be happy, which will then lead them to your books. And we'll be able to then own that marketing relationship and communicate to them about the books that we have, including yours. As always, we'll continue to seek more engagement from you to promote your work through your own circles of influence. Some of you have large circles of influence and leverage those exceptionally well. Some of you have small circles of influence and you leverage those equally well. We'll always be looking to help you and have you strengthen your circle of influence and market. Okay, what is the result of this? Well, we believe that we should see, if we execute on this correctly, over time, not immediately, we should see consumer engagement. We should see lower discounted prices, higher royalties, lower returns, and more margin to invest in marketing. So basically, we should see, if we could do this right, you should see higher sales, higher royalties, and we should see more margin that we can then reinvest to keep that flywheel moving and enlarging Familius's market share. Okay. All right, so that is a quick summary of how Familius is, what Familius has accomplished, what's happened in the marketplace, how Familius is performing in that marketplace, and how we intend to pivot over the next 3 years in order to take advantage of what we see as an opportunity to have your books be more discoverable. So now let's hear if we have any questions, and I will stop. I'll keep this on in case we need to go back to something. So Kate, do we have any questions that have been asked?
Yes, I've been messaging them to you.
Oh, well, then how do I find those?
They should pop up in your chat as just from me privately.
Okay, hold on a second.
So I've been writing down the ones that I haven't already responded to about the gift box. I can just let you know if you can't find them.
Okay, so let me go to the chat then. Here we go, 24 questions. So Kate, why don't you just read me the question and I'll answer them.
Okay, sounds good. So Henry asked, will Familius be paying authors to create web content?
Great question. Familius will not be paying authors to create web content. The content we expect will be part of the actual book content. So for example, if so Mary Potter Kenyon, for example, I'll pick on her. She has a wonderful new book on Called to be Creative. This is whole process of creativity. And so we would be looking to Mary Potter Kenyon to say, you know, what are, to write a short 500-word article on the 5 key things you need to know to begin to be creative after 50. Not suggesting that Mary's over 50 because she's only 27, but as an example. Or we'd look to Cynthia Munchik to write, you know, the 3 things you need to know as your kids go back to college. This is short, precise content that provides specific answers to what somebody might be looking for. So, and we will not be monetizing this content in any way. It's called freemium content. It will be available for people who are looking for answers, which the intent is then to have people engage with us, which we can then market to them directly. Okay, next question.
I think this is Lori on Steve's account, but if 50% becomes direct to consumer, is it possible that we'll be seen as a smaller niche publisher with this strategy, possibly lose out on national book selling partners? What happens to Amazon, and don't you anticipate that things will go back to near normal levels after vaccine, or do you see these changes in the market as more permanent?
Right, there's a lot there. First, I am often wrong, and I might be wrong now, but I don't think that we will see consumer behavior go back to pre-COVID-19 behavior exactly as it was. I think that this experience has changed people's behavior to primarily shop online. And I also do not know how long this is going to protract in terms of people shopping curbside, you know, even when a vaccine happens, and how long that could take. It could take a while. So I don't want to bet that things are going to go back to normal. I want to bet that we need to have what's called the genius of the and. So we have a principle here that's taken from a book called Built to Last by Jim Collins, who's a consultant out of Colorado. And it says that you should have the genius of the and rather than the tyranny of the or. So I don't look at it as a consumer, a direct to consumer versus trade strategy. I look at it as a trade strategy and a direct to consumer strategy where the entire pie is going to enlarge. So I think that Familius is going to continue to work very aggressively to increase its sales in the trade. We are doing that. We are engaged with all those customers. I had a conversation with the head sales guy for Barnes & Noble talking about, you know, what we need to do in 2021 to ensure that we have great distribution there. We just sent some new books over to Phoebe Gasson, who sells to trade independent stores in Colorado and Utah and New Mexico and Arizona, talking about, you know, what are we going to do to increase the sales in these trade accounts. So I think it's important to know that we're not looking to eliminate, to deprioritize, as Amazon did, to reduce the sales in the trade. We're looking to increase those sales, but we're also looking to diversify our sales and have a stronger percentage of them go direct to consumer, because that will make for a stronger company, right? And if my question does not satisfy, please give us a follow-up question.
So
Next.
we have 2 questions on submissions. Rebecca asked if there's certain content that we're looking for, given the recent world changes, if there are topics that we can give authors that they could potentially write on. And then Kimberly Gard asked about the status of children's submissions and if we're still accepting them.
Right. Okay, first, I want you to know that I do not want to see another COVID-19 book manuscript. We have no interest in publishing a COVID-19 book manuscript. Familius' book strategy remains the same right now. So we publish board books that are $8.99 board books, simple board books. We publish interactive board books, which are the Lit for Little Hands or Baby Babbles, where they're the physics animated, yoga magic, where you have levers and pulls and mirrors and wheels, and those are usually $12.99 to $14.99. We have a regional board book series, which is an 8x8 state-specific series. So W is for Washington, Let's Count Washington, where we're expanding across the country and even internationally. We have C is for Canada, Let's Count Canada. We want to go, beyond that. We've reduced the number of regional titles we're doing because we want to see how the market responds to regional content, with Costco not being the gorilla in selling it. So, and just as we were talking, as we were beginning, I was looking at some of the orders are coming through, and I saw an account in Colorado ordering 25 copies of Let's Count Colorado and C is for Colorado, and 12 Little Elves Visit Colorado. And so there's still a great demand for good regional content. So we publish there. Then we have our picture book line. And many of you are involved in the picture book line. And then we have a regional picture book line, like 12 Little Elves, 10 Little Monsters. And then we have what we call our prescriptive titles. The prescriptive titles are like the Parent Compass, or Called to be Creative, or How to Hug a Hedgehog, about parenting teens. And those prescriptive titles, many of you are authors of those. So we still look for relationship level content. What can we do to help families? Then we have a cookbook line, right? We publish a small selection of cookbooks that we do. We have a new one coming out, is released with Laura Lynn Carter, a beautiful book from just an unbelievably talented author. And we have some really fun ones coming out this coming spring. And then we have a higher regional end book that we do on state. So like we have a book called Washington. It's just beautiful photography of Washington. We have one called Arizona, just beautiful photography of Arizona. Another one of Idaho. And that's an experiment because there was a company called Graphic Arts that used to do books like this, and they went out of business. And again, because of my Costco relationship, we felt it'd be a good strategy, and it has been. And I really love books that explore nature, and they're higher priced, $40 books, and you sell 2,000 copies of $40 book, that's equal to 8,000 copies of a $10 book. So we have that, and then we're opportunists. Ashley jokes, it makes fun of me, and in that there's honestly like no book that I don't love. And if I could publish every book, I'd publish every book. I mean, I could publish a book on grass. I could publish a book on Pernambuco wood. I could publish a book on anything because I just like making books. But every once in a while we find something that we think is really interesting. So for example, 276 edible wild plants in Canada and throughout all of North America. That's really fun. So we do things like that. And one of the most important books I've ever published in my career was Let Me Tell You My Story, the book that explored the diaspora of those people in the Middle East because of civil wars and what was happening there, and telling their story. And so it's always an opportunity to find something unique. So it's kind of a long answer to communicate our strategy of what books we do. But yes, we are always interested in seeing submissions. Now, this year has been slow for us to respond because we've been so focused on navigating the pandemic and making sure that we're meeting the objectives of the titles that are in print and that we have coming out in print. So we're absolutely contracted through 2021, and we have a strong list of books that we're still developing for 2022. 2023 is looking a little sparse. I'm not happy with 2023, and I'm really not as excited about fall 2022. We're lacking prescriptive titles. We're looking for that great parenting title, or that great relationship title, or that great title that just is going to help people in some way that we haven't anticipated yet. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you should always send submissions and just be patient with us. And we understand that some of you work with multiple publishers. That doesn't bother me at all. You know, if we have if you send us a title and you feel it's perfect for us, let us know. If you have a title that you've sent to other publishers, let us know. You know, in my previous life running a different company, there was a philosophy that we were at war with other publishers, and I never could. I'd never agree with that philosophy. I don't think it's a war. I've never felt I'm in war with other people. I feel like there's so much creativity in the marketplace, so much creativity in the world, that there's always another idea to do, and that I don't need to worry or stress about who's doing what. We just need to figure out what we can do and do as best we can. So, long answer. Should never ask a publisher to ask you a question, because they'll tell you a story. Okay, next question.
How do we go about increasing distribution in countries outside the USA, like the UK?
Yeah, great question. So in pre 2019, we had worked with some different distribution companies, and that's what you have to do. We don't have a headquarters in London or in Sydney or in Beijing. We work through distribution companies. So we've had good and some bad experiences. So we work with distribution companies, and they're usually located in those countries. So, for example, we have a distribution partner in Australia, New Zealand, called Hardy Grant. And it used to be New South in New South Wales, but we shifted that to Hardy Grant. We have another distribution company in Europe, based in London. We have sales representatives who literally have been pre-COVID-19 going into those countries and visiting those wholesalers and visiting those stores and presenting your books to them. And that's the process that we have to do. It is a sales brick and mortar. Go there, meet with the buyer, and try to get your books presented. And that is in every country, from China to Japan to Brazil to Mexico to Canada. We just had a sales conference in Canada last week, which went really well. And that's how we do it. And how are we going to increase those? The only way we can increase, the best way to increase sales is to have a book that everybody wants, right? And how do we market them? We market it through them. We market it through co-op advertising. We spend a lot of money in promoting it in, for example, in a book publication in Australia or a book publication in Canada. We spend money in, say, Indigo, which is a Canadian chain, which closed for much of the year and they reopened, where we spend cooperative dollars to have that book be visible. And so we do all those things to try to help. And then those distribution companies are also trying to market the books. That's one thing I think it's important for every author and illustrator to know, is that we are in the business of selling books. And so we do everything we can, given the finite time that we have, to make the best choices and the best investments to have your book be visible. I think that's probably the best I can say it there. We don't anticipate changing any distribution going forward for a few years. I think we've settled. We had to change because Baker & Taylor went out of business. We had to change before that because we had a company that was not being honest with us, and we lost a significant amount of money with them. But we keep moving forward. Okay, next question.
From Carla, besides creating content and being more involved in supporting fellow authors, is there anything else we as authors can do to support the transition?
Yes. Thanks for asking that. First, I think you should be sensitive to Kate's time and an overall time that we have in marketing right now as we shift. I think that Kate, you need to know that Kate works 24/7 for you. She really does. There's no hour of the day that I can't reach Kate and know that she's responding. And I think we need to be sensitive to her time over the next few weeks, perhaps 6 weeks, to help her transition and get acclimated to her going back to school, which we support, and as well as helping others become acclimated to their responsibilities at Familius. That can help. And that doesn't mean that we're going to slow or stop marketing. That just means that we just need to be sensitive in terms of your questions. I think that a lot of what we're going to ask you to do is going to be dependent upon a refinement of this strategy in our discussion with a consultant. I think that the number one thing that we will be asking you to do is helping us create that short content, because we think that will be a really valuable net or funnel to attract people. So you can be thinking about, you could research it. You've seen them when you go online and you see these sites that are, you know, marketing to you, and just think about, what would you write? What do you have of value to say to somebody that you think would be important, that could be short and concise? I would do those two things. Good question. Next.
Happy to write the 3 things to keep in mind when going back to college. This is from Cindy. Let me know where to send it and where it will post. And then she also asked if the fall book list will be added and updated, and will the authors be added in, which I think we're working on.
Oh, okay. I understand the question. I think she's asking about our homepage and our Familius site. So yes, the fall titles, the fall 2020 titles will be added to Familius.com, and Familius.com has some legacy issues. You know, you'd think that something that you built 7 years ago wouldn't be old, but I mean, in technology age, it's probably 100 years old. So, so it's more than dog years. So we are working on, that's one of the things we're doing, is exploring the technology to see what needs to be re-engineered. But all your titles will be included in Familius.com. And people can still buy them on Familius.com. We have to improve the indexing so that they're more easily discovered there. And then what was the other question? Oh, should you send content? So don't send any content yet. What we need to do is understand exactly how Familius would differentiate its content. And then we need to communicate with you of what we're looking for specifically and provide you examples so that you can understand. And then we'll be looking to then get that content from you. And that will be, and how we will manage that, we're not sure yet. We don't know. We need to work toward that. So be patient with us as we work toward providing you that information.
And Bill Ratner was the next question, and he asked if we could address the best or most effective ways for authors to market. So can I just quickly address that?
Sure.
Okay, and if I leave anything else out, obviously people can chime in, but I kind of think that depends on the author, and it depends on your network and your platform and the topic, because the way that we market a children's book is going to be very different from the way that we are marketing prescriptive titles, and sort of where I'm pitching those is going to be a little bit different. So I like to kind of strategize with you individually, and I will still be doing that when pitching moving forward. So Bill, I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit. And I do have a marketing guide that I'm revising a little bit that I'll be sending back out to everyone with some updates that should also help with that question, but I am happy to keep talking with you about those things. Yeah, and then he also asked about the Familius Backyard group that Mary Potter Kenyon mentioned, and that is a Facebook author group where you can connect with each other. So I'll get the link as we keep talking, and I'll put it in the chat for everyone who isn't already a member of that. You should be, so make sure that you go over and attempt to join. If you have issues, you can email me and I'll add you manually if you're not already on there.
I really encourage you to be a member of the Familius Author Backyard Facebook group. It's a really valuable location. For example, I know that Mary Potter Kenyon does a lot on there. I really appreciate, like, for example, when authors like her and others, they share things that they're doing or what they found that help authors cross-pollinate and marketing ideas beyond what Familius is doing. It's also a great tool for us when we, as you know, sometimes we'll post covers and have you tell us whether you hate them or like them or which one you would choose. And that's really valuable for us because we know that you come from a complete diverse group of background, and we that helps us make a decision of how a consumer is responding, because that's conversion. Remember, we talked about discoverability versus conversion. When we know what you like, then we move towards, okay, that should work. Okay, it's a market test. Okay, next question.
I'm scrolling back up to them. So I just did drop the link to the group in the chat as well. And it looks like Mary said she's going to start a thread with Facebook and Instagram handles so everyone can go support each other, which is awesome. Thank you, Mary. Lori asked, I write articles for adoption websites. For the articles you want us to write, can we do excerpts of previously written articles? I think she's asking if we prefer original content or if we can republish.
Right, that's a great question. That goes to search engine optimization, right? So the content can have the same principles, the same information, but it should be written so it's fresh. Otherwise, it can't be the same. Otherwise, that other entity may have the rights to that content, and we don't want to be infringing on any other company's rights. So it's just about saying it in a different way.
Tamara's asking, could we host marketing summits like this in the future so we can brainstorm together and develop strategies to collaborate on marketing initiatives?
So one, we've tried to communicate with our Familius family through YouTube videos, through emails. This is our first time just doing a gathering. Our interest is to be transparent and to help you be aware of what's going on. We know that your book is next to your partner, your children, or your dog, or is your most important thing. And sometimes for a period of time, it's the most important thing, and we're sensitive to that. And we want to have you be confident in what's happening. So we try to be as transparent as possible. We think that holding a summit, semi-annually might be helpful to you. We're going to send out I haven't talked with Kate about this, but I'd like to send out a quick survey questionnaire to get some feedback on this experience and whether it's helpful to you. In terms of a marketing summit, to explore, I don't know if that'd be better given another format. So I think Kate will need to lead that discussion and say what's the best way for you as authors and illustrators to do that.
Yeah, and we had one kind of author webinar or training on pitching yourself to local events and local bookstores and libraries, and putting together like decks on your author presence. And I think we had a decent turnout for that, but if you have any ideas for specific topics that we could kind of do trainings on or that you want to brainstorm on, feel free to send those over to me and I'll just put together a list and maybe brainstorm a little bit from there.
Some publishers don't like their authors communicating with each other. We encourage you to communicate with each other. We want you to talk and explore and help each other. So however you find a way to do that, please do that.
And
okay,
Mary Potter Kenyon also recommended registering for the Help a Reporter Out newsletter, which I definitely recommend. So I just wanted to kind of quickly give that a call out. It's very helpful and I try to read through them every day, but if you have extra eyes that you can lend to doing that, then we're more likely to catch relevant things. And she linked to it in the chat. Lori Benson asked if we can just remind people who participated in the author Zoom readings to do the reviews afterwards. So just please make sure you're doing that. And then she also had asked, or someone had asked earlier, if there's some sort of a database that we can put together or files where we can put all of the PDFs of titles in case authors want to go and read Familius books and to go review afterwards.
That's a good question. We're exploring that right now. So we do post a lot of our content on some online review sites. We're exploring FlipSnack's another one. We do have a Dropbox with our content for marketing purposes. So I see that. Let's think about the best way to help our authors be able to collaborate in sharing content. Okay. And at any point, if you wrote us and said, "Hey, I'd love to review this book for my blog or for my social media site," and we could either send you a PDF of that or we can send you an actual book. We always try to reduce the amount of shipping, but we know we want to have people be able to talk about our books and get other people to see them so they're discoverable.
Right. And if you just chiming in really quick, if you need a PDF from anybody else's title, I usually have access to all of them. So you don't have to bother Kate with a request to a PDF. If that's all you need, feel free to reach out and I can get you that.
Okay, it might be effective. One of the things that Christopher tries to work on is efficiency, and Kate receives I receive and respond to about 5,000 emails a month. That's a lot of emails. And I know Kate has a lot of emails too, and Carlos does too. So if there were a way, Carlos and Kate, that we could come up with a way to share content without having to have people email us all the time, that might be useful. So, but again, Carlos is able to provide you, and we want you to share about each other's books. So thank you for that question. Okay, next, others?
I think I got everyone's. If I missed
Great.
it, feel free
Okay.
to let me know.
All right. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with us. Our authors are our lifeblood. It's really true. And people ask me, why do I like publishing? I like publishing because, for many reasons, but the two main reasons I like publishing is that every month, particularly every season, I get to learn new things that I hadn't experienced before. And second is I get to meet and hopefully become friends with some of the most interesting people in the world. My life has been enlarged and enriched because of the people I've met in my 28-year, almost 30-year publishing career. And that's been a great experience. And I wish that I could develop personal relationships with every single one of our authors. It becomes harder and harder as the company grows and grows. But I want you to know that each one of us is grateful for your participation and your engagement in Familius. And I know that Michelle and I are particularly grateful that you have looked to Familius as a steward of your content and have partnered with us to help families be happy. So thank you very much. We'll send out a survey and get some questions answered of how we want to move forward with better communication with our authors in the future. And we hope everyone's healthy, and we hope that you finish 2020 thumbs up and 5 stars. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christopher. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Christopher. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being
Thanks,
on.
everyone.
And Brooke.